Hey guys, it's Alex here, and I'm back with Marquee Matchups for episode 3. And because it is episode 3, we're going a bit different today. We are having 3 clubs today. So we've got Villa, West Brom, and Wolves. So obviously, I think it's Aston Villa versus West Brom this weekend. But I wanted to include sort of the West Midlands teams, because obviously you've got the Black Country Derby, which is West Brom Wolves. But then you also have the Villa versus West Brom derby, and then normally you'd have Birmingham in here with Villa, but I thought I'd just put the West Midlands teams as a trio and see how that would work. So it might be a bit long today because obviously we've got to do 3 players and 3 teams. But obviously, let's go look at the marquee players for each team. So we've got Jack Grealish, obviously, for Villa. There wasn't really going to be many other people. Wolves, we've got Raul Jimenez. You could have gone for maybe a couple other players. You could have put Patricio in, maybe Adama Traore recently. Yeah, but I thought I'd go with Raul Jimenez. And then West Brom was a difficult one because there's not really anyone like a marquee player for them. But the player I've seen in the league so far has been playing quite well. Young player Matheus Pereira. So we put him in. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go. So obviously this one, we're going to have to do a 3 rotation. This one, Jack Grealish is at West Brom, Raul Jimenez is at Villa, and Pereira is at Wolves. And then we'll swap it, and Grealish will go to Wolves, and Jimenez will go to West Brom, and Matheus Pereira will come to Villa. And then we'll also do it whether at their home clubs, and we'll compare how they're doing at each club, which team they perform better at, and for which players play better for. So yeah, let's just jump into it. We're going to do 1 sim of the regular season, them at their normal clubs as a sort of a benchmark, and we'll go from there. So I'll be back in a bit. Okay, we're back now. So we've simmed the season. We're in 2021 now. Let's have a look at how our players did. So let's go first with Jack Grealish. 38 appearances, 8 goals, not the most, 4 assists, 2 player in the matches, and an average rating of 6.91. I thought he'd be doing a bit better, to be fair. Jimenez, 41 appearances, 21 goals, very good. 3 assists and 5 player of the matches with an average rating of 7.14. And then Matheus Pereira with 38 games, 3 goals, 3 assists, 0 player of the matches, and an average rating of 6.89. So not the best there. Grealish wanted by Man City of all teams. Very interesting there. So how's he done? He's done a bit worse than last year. But let's have a look at how he did for Villa. How did they do? Well, let's have a look actually at the league. So Wolves finished 10th, quite a way off actually. Fulham finished 8th. I don't understand that. Man City won the league, Man United 2nd, Tottenham 3rd, Liverpool 4th. Very odd. Villa finished 14th, and West Brom were relegated, so not the best. Jimenez actually tied for top goal scorer, which is pretty good there. Let's look at Wolves. How did they do in the cups? So obviously they came 10th, which is not the best for them. In the FA Cup, they lost to Arsenal in the 5th round, not the best. And then they lost in the 4th round to Man City. So not the best schedule there, but they did have very hard teams. They had a terrible run towards the end of the season. My goodness. To be fair, they did have quite a lot of hard teams, but that's pretty poor from them. Then let's go to Villa. So how did they do? So they lost in the Carabao Cup 3rd round to Liverpool. You can't really fault them for that. And the FA Cup, they won in the 4th round. They got to the 5th round. They lost to Tottenham in the quarterfinals. So that's quite good, actually, getting to the quarterfinals there, finishing 14th in the league. Out of their players, how did Jack Grealish compare? He wasn't actually the best player for him, to be fair. Watkins did very well. He only had 2 appearances. Tyrone Mings was a bit better. But Grealish really, I guess Ollie Watkins was more of the talisman for the team that year, which is interesting. And then obviously West Brom, they did get relegated 19th. Let's see how Pereira, he was the 2nd highest performing player for him. He was playing right wing, which is interesting, with Carl Grant up top. How did they do in the other? They had a lot of losses. They lost to Preston in the 2nd round. And they lost to Tottenham 3-2. And to be fair, they had a man sent off from the 20th minute. So not bad there, to be fair. But yeah, overall, a bit underwhelmed with Jack Grealish. Jimenez did very well, and Pereira, I don't know, he's at West Brom, and I feel like they're going to get relegated a lot. So it'll be interesting to see how he performs at bigger clubs such as Wolves or Villa. Not in terms of bigger club, I mean quality-wise. If we look at the season preview, West Brom are predicted to get relegated. But yeah, okay, so let's switch it up now. Okay, so we have switched players up. So Jack Grealish is now at Wolves, Jimenez at Villa, and Matheus Pereira. Oh wait, no. Is that right? No, Grealish is at West Brom. There we go. Jimenez is at Villa, and Pereira is at Wolves. There we go. So, looking at it, Jack Grealish, 40 appearances, 4 goals, 7 assists, 2 player of the match, and a 6.89. Jimenez at Villa, 40 appearances, 15 goals, not as many as the previously, no assists, 3 man of the matches, and a lower average rating with 6.97. And then Pereira, only 22 starts, 12 appearances as a substitute, but he did get 7 goals and 1 assist, 0 player of the matches, and a 6.94. So that's quite interesting. Let's look at the league, I guess. So, West Brom finished 20th. So Grealish could not make a difference to them. They really just finished completely bottom. Chelsea win the league this year. Wolves finished 8th. That's interesting. Without Jimenez. And Villa just avoid the drop, actually, with Jimenez there. Above Brighton by 1 point. It's quite interesting seeing how they did. Let's go to Wolves. Let's look at their players, obviously. So I guess their main team isn't really including Pereira. He didn't get many starts. Well, he got 22, so but obviously he's not in the starting 11 for them. They finished 8th. How did they do otherwise? They lost in the Carabao Cup to Norwich, which is not good. And they lost to Man City in the FA Cup, which is understandable. So, interesting, he didn't get played much at all there. He was sort of a bit part player. Let's look at Villa. So we look at Villa, I guess, Jimenez is there in terms of the goals. He's their second highest rated player behind Martinez. I guess they don't have as many sort of production, I guess, because Grealish creates the goals for him. Jimenez finishes them, so 15 and 40, not the best. How did they do in the cups? They lost to Fulham in the second round, and they lost on pens to Chelsea in the third round. So quite unlucky there. Didn't he actually take a penalty? Was he actually playing? Yeah, he was playing that game, which is interesting. And then let's look at Grealish at West Brom. So let's see. He was up there. Diangana is normally actually, I think he was the highest average rating in the previous sim. But Grealish really, 4 goals, 7 assists. He really couldn't do much, I guess. He was the highest rated player by a long way, but just couldn't do anything to stop them from going down. How far did they get? They got to the Carabao Cup semis. Oh my goodness. So they beat Port Vale, beat Newcastle, beat Stoke, beat Cardiff on pens, and then lost to Liverpool in the semis. So not too bad from him there. And then they lost to Man City in the 4th round, which is kind of understandable, to be completely honest. But yeah, so that's quite interesting that Wolves did slightly better without Jimenez, which is interesting. Villa did a lot worse. West Brom did pretty much the same, really. But yeah, okay, so now we've got our third switch. So Grealish will go to Wolves, Jimenez to West Brom, and Pereira to Villa. Okay, so now we've done our third simulation. Let's go to our player shortlist. Grealish is at Wolves, Jimenez at West Brom, and Pereira at Villa. So let's have a little look. Grealish there, 35 appearances, 10 goals, his best goal scoring season yet, 5 assists, 1 player in the match, and a 7.01 average rating. Jimenez, 40 appearances, 17 goals, which is pretty good, 0 assists, 3 player of the matches, and 6.94. And then Pereira actually getting 38 games, to be fair, 5 goals and 7 assists, which is pretty good for him, 1 player of the match, and a 6.9 average rating. So that's quite interesting. Oh, great Grealish once again back to Man United this time. Grealish did pretty well for Wolves there. Let's have a look at the league, see how they did. So Wolves finished 8th again. Man City winning the league this time. West Brom finishing 13th. Oh my goodness. Wow, that is from going from 19th and 20th. Villa actually got relegated with Pereira there. Oh my god. Well, that's a bit of a swap in fortunes. West Brom must have those Jimenez goals must have been really important to them. So let's look at Wolves. Look at their players there. So I guess, to be fair, Grealish isn't the main man here. He's playing in the attacking midfielder role, but he did get 10 goals. One of the highest scorers in the team. They're playing Pedro Neto up front. I guess they don't have their main striker anymore. Fabio Silva not really playing. It was Pedro Neto playing striker. But Grealish scoring 10 and assisting 5. Probably one of his better seasons there. How did they do in the Cups? They lost to Leeds in the 3rd round, and then they lost to Leicester in the 4th round, so not going too far there. West Brom, that is mental. 13th. 17 goals for Jimenez, obviously he was their best player there. No assists, but I guess it could be really important to a team. Is just a striker who can score goals for fun. So really, really interesting there. That's how they did in the Cups. They got through to the 5th round. They lost on pens to Man City in the FA Cup. And in the Carabao Cup, they lost to Watford on pens. So unfortunate for them, actually, there. And then Villa getting relegated. Not good at all there. Let's have a look at how Pereira did. Pereira, he was playing attacking mid-right. Individually, he's had one of his better seasons. 5 goals, 7 assists. He was the highest assister. But I guess without Grealish there, they sort of fell to relegation, which is interesting. How did they do in the Cups? So they lost to Arsenal in the 4th round, and they lost to Man City in the 3rd round. So you can't really do anything about that. But that's quite interesting, especially West Brom. Jimenez there is really important. For Lacazette, top goal scorer. Mitrovic, very, very odd. But yeah, so let's sim the rest of these seasons. We're going to do 4 more sims of each one, and then we can start comparing a bit more of a better average how each of these clubs did. Because I don't know how many times West Brom can finish 13th with Jimenez there. So that's a bit mental. So I'll be back in a bit. Okay, so we have now simmed 4 more seasons in each of the 3 scenarios. And we've got some averages now for the players and the teams. So we have got some graphs now to show Grealish, Jimenez and Pereira and the performances for each team. So first, we'll go to Grealish. So appearances-wise, it was pretty standard over the board. 36 for Villa, 35 for West Brom, 37 for Wolves. Nothing really of note there. He actually had the same amount of goal contributions, about 5.6 at Villa and also at West Brom. But Wolves was where he really sort of upped his scoring game. He had a 9.4 goals on average. Had three seasons out of the 5 where he scored double digits, which is quite interesting. So he was definitely getting a lot more service from other players in that scenario. Assists-wise, he also he got 5.4 at Villa, 3.6 at West Brom, and 5.8 at Wolves. So actually got more assists on average at Wolves than he does at Villa. So obviously, I guess he's playing with better players as well, better strikers. Jimenez isn't there, but he's got the general squad that just missed out on Europa last year. Player of the matches is pretty similar. 1.8 at Villa, 1 at West Brom, and 1.6 at Wolves. Nothing really of note there. And then the average rating, he had a 7 at Villa, a 6.9 at West Brom, and a 7.1 at Wolves. So slightly better at Wolves. But yeah, the goals is the main thing that I notice really, that he's scoring double the amount of goals pretty much at Wolves than he is at the other 2 clubs. So that's pretty interesting. Then we look at Jimenez. Appearances wise, same thing. 38, 37 and 36 for Wolves, Villa and West Brom comparatively. Goals wise, he does actually score more at Wolves. 19 at Wolves, 16 at Villa and 14 at West Brom. So I guess in terms of the squad quality, it's going down. He gets less goals because he's being fed by lesser players, I guess. Assists, he had 2 at Wolves, 1.2 at Villa and 0.8 at West Brom. So it's a similar situation there. And then player of the matches as well, 4.6 at Wolves, 3.6 at Villa and 2.2 at West Brom. So same again. And then it's pretty much the same story with average rating, 7.1, 7 and 6.9 for those teams again. So it's pretty... Jimenez is a pretty good trend there. That the lower the squad quality, the worse he plays. He's still playing well, still averaging 14 goals in that West Brom side. To be fair, in the West Brom side, he had a season with 7. The first one we saw was 17. He had a couple of 15s, a 13, and then his last one was 11, which sort of drags the average down. Yeah. But then we look at Pereira. There is a noticeable difference in the appearances. At Wolves, he gets barely any. He gets about half the appearances. So he's really used as a sort of a second team. He's not a starter for them. He's more of a sub or a second string player there. And that really affects, obviously, his goals and his assist ratings. Because obviously at West Brom, he's got 5.6 goals a season. At Villa, about 4.8. And then Wolves is 3.8. But to be fair, some of the seasons, one season he did get 0. But 2 of the seasons, he got 7 and 8 goals. So it's really sort of a really wide range there, which is quite interesting. Assists-wise, he actually got more at Villa, got 5.8 on average at Villa, 5.2 at West Brom, and 2.6 at Wolves. Well, to be fair, one of the seasons he got 7, and then all 4 other seasons he got 2 or less. So he's really sort of fluctuating player, it seems. And then player of the matches got the same 1.2 at both West Brom and Villa, and 0.2 at Wolves, which means he's got 1 player of the match for all of the Wolves games over 5 seasons simulated, which is not very good, to be completely honest. And then he had his best average rating at West Brom with a 7, and then at Wolves and Villa were both 6.9s. So yeah, it was very, very interesting. Although he had much less game time at Wolves, he still played pretty much the same as he would do at Villa. So I guess you could sort of multiply them up. You might get a bit more goals if he played the same amount of matches he did at Villa. He'd get similar assists, maybe similar player of the matches. So that's quite interesting. Now we'll sort of look at the teams and how each player performed at each team and which player performed better. So I'll be back for that. Okay, so now when you compare the players each teams, we'll start off at Villa. So obviously Grealish, Jimenez and Pereira all get pretty similar appearances. They're 36, 37, 35. So there's no real difference there. Goals-wise, obviously Jimenez is going to score more. You can see he's got average of 16 goals at Villa there, while Grealish has only got about 5.6. Pereira 4.8, which is standard. Assists-wise, Grealish gets more. Well, actually, when you look at it, Pereira actually gets an average 5.8 assists over Grealish, which is really interesting that Pereira gets more assists at Villa than Grealish does. And then Jimenez, he's not an assister, so he just does there. Jimenez actually gets more player of the matches, nearly 4 player of the matches compared to Grealish's 1.8 and Pereira's 1.2. And then average rating wise, you pretty much got nearly 7ers across the board. Grealish gets a 7, Jimenez a 7, and Pereira 6.9. So not much to talk about there. The only interesting one was Pereira getting a slightly higher assists, but otherwise nothing too much to go on. When we look at Wolves, obviously the main factor here is Pereira gets half the game time. So he really half the stats pretty much. Jimenez obviously highest goal scorer again, 19 goals on average. Grealish does get higher goals here as well, nearly 10 goals a season, which is pretty high. And then Grealish gets more assists. Interesting though that Pereira actually gets more assists in half the games than Jimenez does at full time, but I guess it is because they're different positions. And then average rating, they're pretty similar, and player of the matches, Pereira doesn't really get many. Jimenez gets the most. And then when we look at West Brom, pretty much the same in appearances wise. Goals wise, obviously Jimenez comes out top again. Jimenez getting, how many did he get? Got 14 goals on average. Pereira getting 5.6 and Grealish getting 5.6 as well. So they're actually getting the same amount of goals there, Grealish and Pereira. Assist-wise, Pereira gets a bit more than Grealish, and then he gets way more than Jimenez. Player of the matches, actually though, Jimenez gets more player of the matches than both of them. So obviously he's the talisman for them. And then average ratings are pretty much the same, all around 7s and 6.9s really. There's only the range for all of them is 6.9 to 7.1, so there's not much to say there. So yeah, it's not too much that can be gleaned from this, but we'll actually have a look at how they perform in their teams and whether they win anything. So we'll be back for that. Okay, so now we're going to look at the team performances. So quite interesting. This, obviously we're not going to be looking at many wins or final appearances or even semi-final sort of appearances. It's more going to be more relegations actually. So if we look at Grealish at Villa, his average Premier League finish was 15th and with one relegation. His best in the FA Cup was a quarter-finals, and then in the Carabao Cup it was about a third round, so not too much there. Interesting though, when he goes to West Brom, he gets relegated 3 times, but also finishes 13th and 15th, so he gets a average position of 18th, which is relegation. He gets to a quarter-final in the FA Cup and 3 semi-finals in the Carabao Cup, which is mental in my opinion. I don't know, it must have been his individual brilliance, but really interesting there. He got to 3 semis. And then at Wolves, he was quite fluctuating. He had a 6th place highest finish, but also a 14th lowest finish. So average finish of 9.4. Got to a final actually in the FA Cup where they lost, and then also got to a semi-final in the Carabao Cup. So overall, he had 1 final appearance and 4 semi-final appearances, and with 4 relegations overall. Then we move on to Jimenez. At the time at Villa, he got the highest finish actually of 9th and also a 10th place finish, but also got relegated once. So his average finish was about 13th, which is actually better than Grealish. Got to a quarter-finals with them and in the FA Cup, and also a quarter-finals in the Carabao Cup. His time at West Brom, it was funny that we had the first one we looked at was when he finished 13th. And then he finished 19th twice and 20th twice. Got relegated 4 times with an average finishing position of 18th. And then in the FA Cup, didn't get past. He got a couple 5th rounds and 3 4th rounds. And the Carabao Cup, he got a couple 4th rounds. So didn't do anything there. And then at Wolves, he got his highest position of 5th and the lowest of 11th. So did very well then. 8.4 average finishing position. Did get to a final and a semi-final in the FA Cup. But only a 4th round in the Carabao Cup. So overall, he only got to 1 final and 1 semi-final. But overall, he finished better in the league than Grealish did at all the significant clubs. And then we go into Pereira last at Villa. He got highest he finished was 12th, and he did get relegated once with 18th. So an average finishing position of 15th. So that's pretty similar to Grealish there. Got to a quarterfinals as well in the FA Cup. So pretty much everyone with Villa gets to a quarterfinal once in the FA Cup, and that's about it. And then a 4th round in the Carabao Cup. And then at West Brom he got relegated 4 times, 2 20ths and 2 19ths, and then a 17th. So he's with the lowest average position of 19th. 4th round once with the FA Cup, and didn't even get past the 2nd round once in the Carabao Cup. And then at Wolves, he had a highest position of 8th and a lowest of 15th. So the lowest average position with Wolves of 11th, with 1 5th round, I think, in the FA Cup, and then a couple quarterfinals in the Carabao Cup, but nothing overall. So he didn't even get a semi-final at all. So overall, Pereira did do the worst there. Grealish did the best in terms of finals and semi-finals, but Villa, and I think that was okay. There was a subscriber that doesn't make sense. I'm recording on OBS, so don't know why that appeared there. Might have to cut that out, we'll see. But in terms of league positions, Jimenez was the best there, finishing 13th, 18th and 8.4 overall with the 3 teams. So that's quite interesting there to go through. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is pretty much the end of it. It's been quite interesting, really, seeing how 3 players work at different teams. It's been a lot more work to it. I think I'll probably be sticking to the 2 players in the future. But it was also interesting having sort of lower league players, like not the Man Cities, the Man Uniteds, and like Arsenal, Spurs, and all that. So we'll have to see with that. But next week, I think next week will be Boxing Day game. So that will be the Chelsea versus Arsenal game, and we'll have to see who the marquee players are that are switching over. Will it be Aubameyang again, or will we change it to a different player? I don't know if we can, to be fair, with Arsenal, but who will Chelsea's marquee player be? So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's been Alex, and I'll see you guys next time.